Well, thank you for joining me, folks, and welcome to the C Files. And don't forget to like and subscribe. This is another installment of A Christian Reads the Quran. And if you haven't watched the devotion videos where I've spent time in the Bible, New King James Version is the one I use for that reading. Take a look at that. If you want to learn about the Bible, that's a good way to do it. If you read it yourself and you get to spots where it's difficult to understand, I'll walk you through that. So just if you just watch those devotion times, you'll get through a lot of that. All right, so we're in chapter 4, or another way of saying that is Surah 4 of the Quran, and this one's on women, on Nisa. I will read to you what the translator has to say about this chapter, and then we'll get into it. Now, why is a Christian reading the Quran? Well, simply because I haven't read it all the way through before, and I want to know what's in it because it's a religion that has a theocracy, if you will, that has made its presence well known in our country. And it would behoove me to understand what the Quran says and not. Here's the thing. I don't want to be misled by false information about Islam and about the Quran put out by social media and put out by mainstream media. Haven't we had enough of that with Christianity where they've lied and misled about Christianity all the time? I don't want the same thing. I want to be accurate when I'm uh, understanding the religion of Islam. I want to be accurate about it. Now, as a Christian, I obviously do not agree with the religion of Islam, but it's important to be accurate with what they actually do believe. And that's why I'm in the Quran. It's also good for polemics and Christian apologetics. So here we go. Now, this is the beginning of chapter 4, not the actual Quran, but what the translator says about this chapter. This chapter focuses on the rights of women, hence the chapter's name, the law of inheritance, care for orphans, lawful and unlawful women to marry, and standing for justice. See the remarkable example of justice to a Jew in verses 105 to 112. We haven't gotten there yet, so I don't know what that is yet. As the chapter progresses, the focus shifts to the etiquette of striving in the cause of God and the relationship between Muslims and the people of the book. That would be Christians and Jews, those who believe in the Bible. Anyone who believes in the Bible are people of the book. So it's the relationship between Muslims and Christians, Muslims and Jews, so forth, culminating in a rebuttal to the claims about the crucifixion and the divinity of Jesus. Islam doesn't believe that Christ was actually crucified on the cross. They don't believe in that he is the Son of God, the divinity of Christ. So that's going to be an interesting discussion when we get to that point. Like the previous and next chapters, this chapter also deals with the issue of hypocrisy, a common theme in many other Medinian chapters. All right, before I get into the text of Quran, I got to check something real quick. Then I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. Now, this will be my first time reading this chapter. So here we go. In the name of God, the most compassionate, most merciful. And I forgot to mention that there are headings in this particular version of the Quran by the translator to help us understand what's in the verses to come. So the heading is commitment to God and kinship ties. Here's the actual reading of the Quran. O humanity, be mindful of your Lord who created you from a single soul. Okay. And from it, he created its mate. Okay. He must be talking about Adam. Okay. We're in Adam in okay, in the sense of reproduction. Okay, it makes sense. And from it he created its mate. Its mate? From Adam he created Eve, right? Its mate? Why its instead of his mate? I don't know. And through both he spread countless men and women. And true. And be mindful of God, in whose name you appeal to one another, and honor family ties. Surely God is ever watchful over you. Family is the most basic, vital, and important unit of humanity. Um, and family consists of a man and a woman brought together in holy matrimony. Two become one in the biblical sense, and it's two souls coming together as one in the sense that they are there's a spiritual mystery to it as far as marriage goes, how the souls are knitted together between a husband and a wife. And from that comes the procreation of children. And it seems the Quran sees it as the same in the same way. The Quran seems to see that in the same way. Orphans giving back their wealth. Now jumps to orphans. Give orphans their wealth when they reach maturity, and do not exchange your worthless possessions for their valuables, nor cheat them by mixing their wealth with your own, for this would indeed be a great sin. So they take care of orphans. Sounds like they take care of them quite well if they're obeying what the Quran says here. But is it all orphans, or is it specifically orphans who are in Islam? I would submit it specifically in Islam. Bridal gifts. If you fear you might fail to give orphan women their due rights, that's interesting. Orphan women when it comes to bridal gifts. Okay. If you fear you might fail to give orphan women their due rights, if you were to marry them, then marry other women of your choice. Two, three, or four. So the Quran condones polygamy. The Bible condemns polygamy. And I don't want to hear the argument about Solomon had 1,000 wives and Abraham had two wives and no. Just because they did that, that doesn't mean that God condoned it. Yes, the Bible is brutally honest about the failings of humanity, even the failings of those who God calls righteous because of the imputation of righteousness to them through the cross. Um, just because I do something as a Christian, that doesn't mean that that always represents Christianity, or it always represents Christ, or it always represents the will of God. Well, the same was true with Abraham. The same was true with Jacob. The same was true with all of the Old Testament patriarchs. To use that, the same was true with Solomon, right? With 1,000 wives. To use that as an argument for polygamy is horrible hermeneutics, and it's a horrible theology. It's not even accurate when it comes to the progressive revelation of Scripture, of the progressive revelation found in the Bible. Okay, so the Bible, no, it does not condone polygamy. It's Adam and Eve are the standard. One man, one woman together in matrimony. And as a matter of fact, the qualifications of a pastor or an elder or deacon in the church is a man dedicated and married to one woman, a one woman man. And that's in First Timothy and Titus. But if you are afraid you will fail to maintain justice, then content yourselves with one or those bondwomen in your possession. You got to remember, this was written in a time when this was not an issue. To take slave women in as almost concubines, right? Or as multiple slave women as multiple wives. I mean, this was something that was allowed in their culture at that time. And if you're in Utah, well, I mean, yeah, still allowed, right? But if you are afraid you will fail to maintain justice, then content yourselves with one or those bondwomen in your possession. This way you are less likely to commit injustice. Okay, the logic behind that escapes me. It really does. Give women you wed multiple, so there's a polygamy, their due dowries graciously. Take care of them financially. If they waive some of it willingly, then you may enjoy it freely with a clear conscience. Dowries could also mean the intimate relationship with them, the physical act of procreation with them. Managing wealth responsibility. Do not entrust the incapable among your dependents with your wealth, which God has made a means of support for you, but feed and clothe them from it and speak to them kindly. Okay, this is orphans' wealth. Test the competence of the orphans until they reach a marriageable age. Then, if you feel they are capable of sound judgment, return their wealth to them, and do not consume it wastefully and hastily before they grow up to demand it. If the guardian is well off, they should not take compensation, but if the guardian is poor, let them take a reasonable provision. When you give orphans back their property, call in witnesses, and sufficient is God as a uh, vigilant reckoner. So there's some footnotes down here. I've got to figure out how to use these footnotes. I see there's 164, 165, all the way up to 169. And what I need to figure out is how they connect to what I'm reading. I think, why would it be on this page and not back where those verses were? No, these are dealing with this chapter. Okay, so where am I seeing? I got to find out where the numbers are. Let me just read these footnotes for a moment. It says the Quran is the only scripture that says marry only one. Unlike any previous faith, Islam puts a limit on the number of wives a man can have. Under certain circumstances, a Muslim man may marry up to four wives as long as he is able to provide for them and maintain justice among them. Otherwise, it is unlawful. With the exception of Jesus Christ and John the Baptist, neither of them were married. Almost all religious figures in the Bible had more than one wife. That's not an argument for polygamy. I'm sorry, it's just not. And I knew these Islamic scholars were going to use that. It's an insufficient argument. According to the Bible, Solomon had 700 wives and 300 concubines, or the thousand. And his father David had many wives and concubines. Yeah, but and God condemned it. If you pay attention to the scriptures, it says in the New Testament that God winked at those times because there was progressive revelation. The wives of Solomon turned him away from the Lord. And that was all about relations with other nations. David had multiple wives, yeah, and it was not. It was polygamy, and it was a sin for David to do that. It was a sin for Abraham to do it, to have that relation with Hagar. That was Abraham acting on his own accord and not in accordance to what God's will was. I mean, if you read each one of these in the scriptures carefully, you'll find that God doesn't condone it. God set up the standard, and the Apostle Paul makes it clear later, and even Jesus Christ makes it clear later, that it's one man, one woman, not polygamy. That's the way God, that's the creation standard that God set up. That's how God designed it. Okay. So no, that argument by these scholars in the footnote is not accepted by me. To me, it's not a good argument. It's just not. Now this one's talking about a bondwoman. A bondwoman is a female slave that a man owned either through purchase or taking her captive in war. And Islam, even today, still condones slavery, folks. A common ancient practice in many parts of the world, Islam opened the door for ending slavery by making it an act of charity to free slaves. Okay. But there's still slavery in the Islamic world today. Many sins, such as breaking one's oath, unintentional killing, and intercourse with one's wife during the day of fasting and Ramadan. Is that right? Am I skipping? Oh, yeah. This is such small print. I'm sorry. Let me get to it. Where am I? Put my finger on here. Yeah, during the day of fasting and Ramadan. So apparently you're not supposed to have intimate relations with your wife during the fasting of Ramadan. Can be atoned by freeing a slave. Atoned by freeing a slave? This is why I believe Islamic scholars don't understand atonement. They're clueless when it comes to atonement. That's not atonement. I'm sorry, it's just not. Um, a really small print. According to Islamic teachings, no free person can be born to a slave master where deemed free. No, whoa, where am I? According to Islamic teachings, no free person enslaved, can be enslaved. Okay, you can't enslave a free person. Okay. Why did they do it all those years in Northern African Muslims going into Europe and enslaving European Christians and ravishing these women, the Christian women, when they took them back to North Africa? Why? Millions of them. I'd like for an a Muslim apologist to explain that one to me. If the Quran is forbidding that, or is it a part of jihad? Is there kind of a selective understanding here, or is the Quran contradicting itself? I don't know. Just questions. According to Islamic teaching, no free person can be born. No free person can be enslaved. Islam also improved the condition of slaves. They're trying to this is an apologetic is what it is for Islam. They're trying to say, "Oh, but we're good people. See what we're doing? We've made things better." Um, okay. Maybe because Christians came along and put the pressure on you to make it better. That's probably what it was. Let's see here. Oh, this is so small, such small writing, and I have a hard time with small writing. Trying to find my spot. According to Islamic teachings, no person can be enslaved. Islam also improved the condition of slaves. It was unlawful to separate a mother from her child. Children born to a slave master were deemed free, and their mother would gain her freedom upon the death of her master. With regards to slaves, Prophet Muhammad says he's not a prophet, by the way, not in my belief, not in the Christian belief. Uh, Prophet Muhammad says, feed them from what you eat, clothe them from what you wear, and do not overwhelm them with work unless you assist them. He also says, whoever kills his slave will be killed, and whoever injures his slave will be injured. That comes out of Deuteronomy, Leviticus and Deuteronomy. Um, in recent times, slavery has been outlawed in all countries, including the Muslim world. You sure about that? All right, next one. Inheritance entitlements of immediate family members, children, parents, full and half brothers and sisters, and spouses are given in the following verses 7, 11 through 13, 32 through 33, and 176. Shares are determined mainly according to the closeness of the heir to the deceased. Close relatives get more than distant relatives. It says age, i.e., those who are young get more than those who are old, and to a lesser degree, gender. Here's another footnote, 169. For example, in the case of orphan children whose grandfather then dies, leaving behind other children, some scholars ruled that an obligatory bequest should be made to them despite not having a share in inheritance. All right. So that's their explanation, that's their interpretation. There we go. That's from the scholars, whoever this is. It could be no, it's from the scholars, multiple, because it's by a foundation, not an individual. All right, let's go to managing wealth responsibly. I think we read that. Yeah. And we read orphans' wealth. This is inheritance law, males and female. For men, there is a share in what their parents and close relatives leave. And for women, there is a share in what their parents and close relatives leave, whether it is little or much. These are obligatory shares, acts of kindness. If non-inheriting relatives, orphans, or the needy are present at the time of distribution, offer them a small provision from it and speak to them kindly. All right. Speak to them kindly. Okay. Caring for orphans. Let the guardians be as concerned for the orphans as they would if they were to die and leave their own helpless children behind. So let them be mindful of God and speak equitably. Indeed, those who unjustly consume orphans' wealth, in fact, consume nothing but fire into their bellies, and they will be burned in a blazing hell. So there is protection for Muslim orphans in the Quran. Inheritance law 2, offspring and parents. God commands you regarding your children. The share of the male will be, turn the page, twice of that of the female. If you leave only two or more females, their share is two-thirds of the estate. But if there is only one female, her share will be one half. Each parent is entitled to one-sixth if you leave offspring. But if you are childless and your parents are the only heirs, then your mother will receive one-third. Let me go back. I really need to get a hold of this. If you leave only two or more females, their share is two-thirds of the estate. But if there is only one female, her share will be one half. Each parent is entitled to one-sixth if you leave offspring. It's just really divvying it up by the Quran. If you are childless and your parents are the only heirs, then your mother will receive one-third. Only one-third? Hmm. But if you leave siblings, then your mother will receive one-sixth. Well, that don't sound like they're being fair to women there. The mother gets less and less. After the fulfillment of bequests and debts, be fair to your parents and children so you do not fully know who is more beneficial to you. This is an obligation from God. Surely God is all-knowing, all-wise. Then we have, and we'll end with this one, inheritance law 3, spouses, inheritance law 4, maternal siblings. All right. You will inherit half of what your wives leave if they are childless. Why can't you get all of it? Why can't the husband get all the inheritance of the wife and the wife get all the inheritance of the husband? But I mean, what's the reason behind this? If they have children, then your share is one-fourth of the estate. So with kids, it even gets cut down even more. So the spouse gets less than what the children get. Then your share is one-fourth of the estate after the fulfillment of bequests and debts. How did they come up with this? Seriously. Was this just a custom that was common in that time, or did just Muhammad just make it up in his head? I don't know. Were they misunderstanding Levitical law? I mean, how did they come up with this? If they have children, then your share is one-fourth of the estate after the fulfillment of bequests and debts, and your wives will inherit one-fourth of what you leave if you're childless. And if you have children, then your wives will receive one-eighth of your estate after the fulfillment of bequests and debts. And if a man or a woman leaves neither parents nor children, but only a brother or a sister from their mother's side, they will each inherit one-sixth. And if they are more than one, they all will share one-third of the estate after the fulfillment of bequests and debts without harm to the heirs. This is a commandment from God, and God is all-knowing, most forbearing. This has to be based on the custom at the time. That's how I would see it. 170 footnote. Here we have a footnote. According to Islamic law of inheritance, a female, whether she is a mother, a wife, a sister, a daughter, and so forth, gets one of three shares, depending on her closeness to the deceased. Yeah, because why? Multiple wives. Remember polygamy. Polygamy. So that it's got to be shared among the wives. depending on how what her relationship was to the husband in comparison to the other wives. Unbiblical, folks. This is adultery. Polygamy is adultery. Okay. Less than a man's share. If she is a daughter, she will get half of the share of her brother, since he, unlike his sister, has to provide for the family and pay a dowry at the time of his marriage, more than a male's share. For example, if a man leaves $24,000 and six sons, two brothers, a wife, and a mother, the wife will get 1/8, 3,000. The mother 1/6, 4,000. Each of the sons will receive about $2,833, and two brothers will not get anything. An equal share. This, in the case of siblings from the mother's side, mentioned in verse 12 of this chapter. That's it. Okay. This is in the case of siblings. So we're talking about an equal share. An equal share is given in the case of siblings from the mother's side, mentioned in verse 12. You will inherit half of what your wives leave if they are childless. Okay. All right. Well, there it is, folks. That's what the Quran, Quran sounds like in chapter 4 so far. I'll go through all of it. I'm gonna go through the whole thing, and we'll learn as we go. What's chapter 5? I'm so curious about this stuff. I'm really curious about comparative religions. The spread table. That should be interesting. All right. So anyway, it's obviously it is a concept from the ancient world and not a concept from the modern world, where typically there's one man married to one woman, and a lot of inheritance law will, well, basically in our world today, it's based upon the will or living trust that designates who gets what, and it's up to the individual to decide how he wants to divvy up his stuff when he leaves. Typically, the wife has a lot of rights, and the husband has a lot of rights to their spouse's stuff when they pass. Um, if my wife were to pass away, I would get the life insurance money. I would get whatever's in her 401k would come to me, the brokerage account to me, and the same for her if I were to pass. I mean, it's that's how it's set up. Um, and then if she passes or I pass after that, then it goes to the kids. That's how it typically. But the ancient world obviously was quite different. At least this Islamic ancient world was different. All the way down to polygamy. Wow. Which is, like I said, biblically, that's adultery. I mean, there's no way around it. It is adultery. Um, and clear in what Christ said, that's adultery. Clear in what the apostles wrote, that is adultery. Even clear in passages in the Old Testament as progressive revelation came along. That is adultery. It's one man, one woman. Christ made that clear. Did you not know from the creation that one man and one woman, right? He told the Pharisees, it's not polygamy. So, as I go through if you want to know more about that, we'll deal with that as I go through my a devotion time series in the Bible. Islamic scholars often make a lot of mistakes when it comes to the Bible. They don't understand the Bible as well as they claim to understand it. Um, so if you want to understand about the Bible, if you want to understand about David having multiple wives, Abraham having multiple wives, and so forth, so on, go to the Christian scholars who study that, um, and they will clarify that. All right. Thanks for watching. God bless. We'll see you next time here on the C Files. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I'd appreciate it.